everyone, I hope you had a great week. Tonight's video is the last one in the series we've called The You Effect. We've been looking at the reality that you and I have an effect on people, influence on people, no matter what we think. It's just important that we have a positive one that points them toward Jesus. So let's get started. Now, I'm sure you've heard the phrase cause and effect, right? You know, when one thing happens as a result of a different thing happening. For example, here's a cause. My mom's in a great mood today. The effect is, I'm totally going to ask her for concert tickets. Here's another cause. My teacher sprung an unexpected project on our class that's due Monday. Effect, my weekend is now destroyed. Cause, we played terrible in last night's game. The effect, the coach pushes us harder today in practice. You get the idea. Now here's something that I experience, and I'm guessing it can be true for you too. Whenever I do something and the effect is great, I like to think, well, the cause is me, or at least I had a big part in it. Kind of like I'm the great thing that caused that great effect. Now, of course, I don't say that out loud, but totally hype myself up in my own head sometimes. Now on the flip side, however, I run into effects all the time that are bad. And here's what I say 0 times when that happens. Yep, that's me. I did that. I'm the cause of that. In fact, if I lose my keys, I've got a tendency to blame someone or something else. The kids, the weather, the dogs, the way the wind was blowing that day, whatever it is. I can't be alone here, right? I imagine that I'm not, or at least I'd like to imagine that I'm not. But in life, sometimes we all mess up. We slip up, we miss the mark, and we make mistakes. We drift away from what we know we're supposed to do. And what's one of the effects of this? Well, for one, we lose influence. Here's what I mean. Sometimes this happens in a big way. We blow it, and what we did becomes the headlining topic of gossip among our friends. Maybe it involved something like getting high at a party, sending nude pics that went public, or we just had a run-in with the police, or it's just something stupid we did that everybody found out about. I mean, come on, these are all real things that happen to students your age. So whatever we did was the cause, and the effect was that people who used to look up to us take a step back now. People that typically listen to us turn down the volume. Maybe adults who respected us give us that disappointed look. Even the people that are normally quick to hang out with us, well, they're suddenly busy, and hey, that hurts, right? Now, sometimes this happens in a small way over time. It's not an all-at-once thing. It wasn't one huge decision. It was just a series of small decisions or small changes among our friends or one-time things that turned into all-the-time things until we're suddenly a different person and we're seen differently. So, how we treat people can increase or decrease the effect we have on the lives of others. Over time, if those interactions are negative, people can stop trusting us or stop wanting to be around us. And as a result, we can lose our positive effect slowly over time. Before we even realize it, our relationships have changed. And we can end up feeling like we can't ever get back what we lost. And if that's happened or is happening to you, here's the thing. Losing influence happens to all of us because none of us are perfect. It's very likely that we'll all make decisions that create distance between us and the people around us at some point in life. And when that happens, nearly all of us tell ourselves the same thing. That's it. Story's over. So what's that look like? Well, for one, we mess up, do something stupid, people find out, and then we do something like this. Decide not to go to church that week, or just stay quiet in small group conversations, or maybe we just ghost our friends for a while. And more often than not, 1 week turns into 2, 2 weeks turn into 2 months, and so on. And before long, we start telling ourselves, I used to be a church person, a God person. I used to be a small group person, a good person, but that's not me now. We convince ourselves that we're not going to have influence or be a person who changes someone's life because of Jesus. That maybe we were once a person with a positive view effect on the people around us, but that's just not who we are anymore. And if that's you, you aren't alone. You're not the first to feel this way. And you shouldn't put yourself down over it either. But remind yourself of this. God doesn't put those thoughts into your mind. Those aren't of Him. Those are thoughts that come from only one place, and that's the accuser or the enemy, Satan. Now, the Bible is full of people who had a positive effect and influence, who lost it, and they were sure their story was over. But this week, we're going to look at a woman whose influence nearly hit rock bottom. And in her culture, Women already had less influence than men. They were seen as property, and people believed that they had very little value. And in this case, the woman made some pretty bad decisions that led her to lose what little influence she did have. Her encounter with Jesus was recorded by Luke, who's a physician and researcher who spent time with people who knew Jesus and wrote down their stories. This particular account begins with a dinner invitation. When one of the Pharisees invited Jesus to have dinner with him, he went to the Pharisee's house and reclined at the table. That's in Luke 7:36. Now let's give this some context. The Pharisees were Jewish leaders who were dedicated to following Jewish religious law, and they were, let's just say, very confident that they had a positive effect on others. They were so confident, in fact, that they looked down on others who seemed to have a lesser influence. Okay, with that in mind, here's what happens next. It says, a woman in that town who lived a sinful life learned that Jesus was eating at the Pharisee's house. So she came there with an alabaster jar of perfume. As she stood behind him, at his feet weeping, she began to wet his feet with her tears. Then she wiped them with her hair, kissed them, and poured perfume on them. Luke 7:37-38. Now, maybe this sounds a bit weird to you, but foot washing was common in that time. And now you have to remember, everyone walked on dirt roads and paths in sandals. And so that could only mean one thing. They feet nasty. So it wasn't unusual to wash your feet when coming into someone's house. What was different about this situation was that this woman wasn't using water, but an expensive jar of perfume. And this was about more than clean feet. It was like an act of worship. And the Pharisee had thoughts about it. It goes on to say, when the Pharisee who had invited him saw this, he said to himself, if this man were a prophet, he would know who is touching him and what kind of woman she is, that she is a sinner. Luke 7:39. Now the thing is, this Pharisee had Jesus all wrong. He thought Jesus would back away from being touched by a sinful woman, when in reality, this was exactly the kind of people Jesus was drawn to, and the kind of people drawn to Jesus. He actually preferred it that way. This included people with no influence. They were drawn to Jesus. People who were sinners were drawn to Jesus. People who had negatively affected others were drawn to Jesus. Now, this woman knew that she had a bad reputation and no influence or respect in this group, and that's what drove her straight to his feet. Her appreciation for Jesus was fueled by her own inadequacy. She didn't hide from Jesus because she didn't measure up. Instead, she got close to him and worshiped him. Now, that's something that's important to note as we go on. When she felt inadequate, she didn't hide from God. She got closer to him. So the story goes on. Then he turned toward the woman and said to Simon, do you see this woman? I came into your house. You did not give me any water for my feet, but she wet my feet with her tears and wiped them with her hair. You did not give me a kiss, but this woman, from the time I entered, has not stopped kissing my feet. You did not put oil on my head, but she has poured perfume on my feet. Therefore I tell you, her many sins have been forgiven, as her great love has shown. But whoever has been forgiven little loves little. Then Jesus said to her, your sins are forgiven. Luke 7:41-48. Now Simon looked at this woman and probably saw her as nothing. But when Jesus looked at her, he saw something completely different. He saw potential and purpose and a positive effect for her future. You see, up until this point, the cause and effect of this woman's life looked like this. The cause, she was a sinner. The effect, people looked down on her and thought negatively about her. But this was the cause and effect of Jesus' response to her. The cause, Jesus loved her. And the effect, Jesus forgave her and gave her a new start. Now, I want you to understand something. No matter what you've done or how bad of a person you think you are, or how people may see you because of what you've done, you are loved by Jesus. And you're free to love him back. You don't need to get it together or make up for anything or try to be good until you can hang out with Jesus. You can do it right now, right as you are. In fact, what's incredible about Jesus' encounter with this woman is afterward, she had more influence than she could have ever imagined. To be clear, her story has been told and she has been used as an example for faith for thousands of years. Her you effect may have once been almost gone, but it became bigger than she could ever have imagined. And because of her decision to take a step toward Jesus, her story was redeemed through Jesus. Her lost influence, lost reputation, and lost standing weren't lost forever. So I want you to think of it this way. Because of Jesus, we can change the effect we have on others. Just like the woman in the story, our mistakes don't have to erase the potential for a positive effect. Jesus has always been about new starts and do-overs. Now, maybe you're watching right now feeling like you relate to this story in some way because you've made some decisions you regret, or you just assumed your bad decisions meant you weren't the kind of person God would want to use. Or maybe you feel like you've made decisions that have caused you to lose your influence with the people around you. Sure, God forgives, but people still talk, right? Can you even change that? Either way, here are a few steps that you can take to change directions, and you can do this right now. The first thing you need to do is reflect. Ask yourself, what small steps or big decisions are leading me to have a negative effect on others? Is it in how you speak to others? Are you too harsh or sarcastic in your responses? Maybe you're getting drunk, smoking weed, making impulsive decisions that are borderline reckless. Maybe you're lying to the people who are closest to you. Or maybe you're pretending to be someone you're not. Whatever it is, take some time to think honestly about what is causing your good effect on people to suffer. Here's the next thing you do. Confess. If there are choices that have led you to have a negative effect on others, talk to God about it. Invite Him into your mess. Just like the woman at the dinner party, we can approach Jesus no matter what other people think or say about it. He's not surprised. He isn't mad. He's quick to forgive and accepts us just as we are. He sees us exactly as we are, people made in His image with incredible potential. Now, you may want to talk to an adult or a youth leader about your past decisions. I want you to know we're here for you. Send us a DM on any of our social channels at GCC Youth Lebanon. We want to talk with you, and we want you to know that your issues aren't something we handle carelessly. You can count on us to be a safe place, like a harbor in a storm, for when you need to talk. So we want to help you. Okay, the next thing to do is to identify a specific step you can take to move in the right direction to rebuild trust after the negative effect you've had on people around you because of choices you made. Maybe it's apologizing to someone you've mistreated or lied to, changing the way you speak to people, or asking someone to check in with you and remind you about the positive decisions you've made to change. Now, as we close out this video today in this series, I want you to remember, because of Jesus, we can change the effect we have on others. Lost influence doesn't have to be lost forever. You have the ability to take a step in a different direction. And the truth is this, all of us mess up sometimes, all of us. We take our you effect from positive to negative, and we need a fresh start every once in a while. And so when that happens, I know we're all tempted to give up, to walk away, or to avoid people, and maybe we just assume that the story's over. But Jesus makes it so clear, nobody gets to say the story is over but Him. And when we take a step toward Him, He invites us to get up instead of give up, and to change that effect we have on people one step at a time. I'm praying for you, I love you, and we'll see you soon.